Hey guys, welcome to the vlog. So let's talk about modern web UI and UX. I'm going to try and do this in about 5 minutes. All right, I'm going to give you the 6 bullet points and then I'll go back and do the details. Number 1, alignment. Number 2, white space, breathing space in your page. Number 3, typography, font use. Number 4, colors and color matching. Number 5, psychological UX. Number 6, psychological UI. I had to say that a little slower so I didn't slur. So what's the key message of this video? UX and UI are more important to an app's success than the code behind the pages or the views that you see, whether it's a web page, web app, or a mobile app. UX, UI are the differentiators. So let me qualify that. Back in the 1990s when I started to code, much of the challenges were infrastructure challenges. The technology behind web apps and application development, web stuff, websites, web apps, the technology behind the back end was primitive, browsers were primitive, so just getting things to work was difficult. These days, getting things to work is not nearly as hard because the web browsers are far more sophisticated. The web frameworks are far more sophisticated, whether it be backend like Python Django, Java Spring, .NET, C#, PHP Laravel, etc., etc. These backend frameworks are very powerful. The front-end frameworks, Vue.js, React, etc., all these things are very mature, very capable. It is much easier to get something done today than it was just like I said, just a few years back. So fantastic. All right, let's get back to the bullet points. Number 1, alignment. You look at a page, you look at a user interface, align your paragraphs, your titles, align your images, make sure there's consistency in the alignment of things on the page. It makes it easy for the eye to follow. This is basic graphic design principle, basic page design principle that extends from the print industry into web design, into web app development, into app development. Basic alignment, important. Number 2, white space, I call it breathing space. So in an app, in a web page, in a website, in a web app, you're going to have elements on the page. Could be text elements, titles, paragraphs, could be buttons that you click, could be lists, could be tables, whatever. Images, you have to have white space around these elements so they don't feel squished up and crunched. You want to give it some breathing room. Minimalism, simple, very important. Number 3, typography, font use. There's basic rules in terms of using fonts on a page. First, you want to choose fonts that are representative of the type of content on the page. So if you were developing a website for a goth metal band, you could have gothic fonts or satanic fonts, if you will. If you were developing a website for organic teas, you would have much more subdued fonts that fit that genre. So that's one rule. So you have to pick a font face that matches the whatever the subject matter happens to be on the web app or website or the application that you're developing, right? Fonts for a video game are very different than fonts for an adventure video game. Fonts are very different than fonts for whatever, a kid's video game, right? So you look at, there's many other rules of fonts, like for instance, you got serif and sans serif fonts. Serif fonts are fonts with little flares at the end of the font. That would be good for titles. And you want sans serif fonts, which are more simple, fonts. Those would be used in paragraph text. No more than 2 font faces on a particular page. It gets too busy. There's more, but this is just an outline. Number 4, colors and color matching. Again, just like with fonts, colors will go with a certain genre or a certain feel. So if you're doing a Halloween website or a costume party, you could have, blacks and orange and yellows. These are very Halloween colors. If, on the other hand, if you're doing that organic tea shop, you probably have pastel blues and greens because it's kind of organic, right? So colors that fit the genre or the topic at hand are important. And then there's color matching and mixing. Certain colors clash, certain colors go well together. There are sites and tools online what they'll give you. You choose your primary color for your site and it shows all the other colors that go with it. So that's all very important. Now, these elements, alignment, white space, typography, colors, color matching, font use, etc., these all go to the feel that your app or your web app or your website is going to convey to the user. There's something I call the emotional snapshot. I've taught this for many, many years. And what that is for me, as soon as you hit a page, what feeling does it give you? And the feeling that it gives you is going to largely be dependent on how it looks and how things are organized on the page using alignment, white space, typography, colors, etc. Now, following these basic rules, which are pretty easy to follow, right? Even if you're design challenged, this will allow you to improve your design skills, if you will, or your design implementations very, very easily, very, very easily, just by following alignment, white space, typography rules, color rules. So let's go to number 5, psychological UX. Now, UX is short for user experience. This is different from how it looks. User experience is literally how things are positioned so that they're easy to use and navigate, whether it be a website, a web app, mobile app, whatever. UX is user experience, and it has to do with how easy something is to use. As simple as that. So if you design that well, using good UX principles, the app, the web app, the website should be easy to use, intuitive to use. For example, with Studio Web, I spent a lot of time in refining that, maybe 100 refinements in the UX to make it easy to use. Now UX is very different from UI, right? UI is user interface, which has to do with the visual aesthetics, how good it looks, not necessarily how easy it is to use. You could have a site that looks amazing, but it could have terrible UX, meaning the user experience is not very good, though it looks amazing, and vice versa. So you look at sites like Craigslist, one of the most successful websites of all time. In terms of UI, in terms of how beautiful, it's just text. It's almost like 0 on 10 UI. It's just text, right? But in terms of UX, it's almost 10 on 10. At Google's main site, again, it's all about the quality of the UX with Google.com. It's not a quality of the UI. Google is not a beautiful looking site, not a criticism. It's just a point. But its UX is really, really, really good. So these are two of the last elements. So number 1, alignment. Number 2, white space. Number 3, typography. Number 4, colors. Number 5, psychological UX. Number 6, psychological UI. Again, the key message from this video and the takeaway is UX and UI are more important these days in terms of an app success. Whether it be a web app, mobile app, the look and feel, the UX, UI are more important than the code behind the pages because frameworks are so sophisticated, languages are so sophisticated, the hardware of servers, the hardware of phones, on computers are so powerful that even if your code is lousy, it will still probably run fast enough that it won't get in the way of the experience of the user. Of course, if you have a very popular system, you're going to have to write optimized code. And of course, if your code is messy, you're going to have a heck of a time updating it and keeping it up to date, adding new features. That's another story. I'm just talking about the overall experience that your end users will have using your app or your website. The code behind the pages, although it should be clean and simple, etc., it's not crucial. What's crucial is the 6 elements rather that I mentioned in this video. This is such an important topic, and I do cover some of these things. Actually, I cover a lot of these things in my Studio Web Stack courses. Nonetheless, I think I might put out a dedicated course on this if there's enough of an interest, depending on how many people watch and share this video. So there you go, modern web UI and UX in around 5 minutes.